This is TWiT.
We got an email from a viewer not so long ago, a couple of weeks ago, saying, hey, I have a Xiaomi Mi 4. This is a phone, a smartphone that's available only in China. Xiaomi got a lot of attention when Google's Hugo Barra left Google to go run Xiaomi. And many think it's a really up-and-coming phone company, but you can't get their phones yet in the U.S. We thought we'd get it for Jason Howell, so he, host of All About Android, so he could review it. And I think he likes it. There's the Mi 4.
I mean, we just got this yesterday. By the way, that gentleman is Pete Lambros. He's the one that reached out to us and gave us the invite. I guess when he bought one through an importer, they ended up charging him and sending him 2 of them.
Oh.
He was like, well, I can either return it for a fee, or if you want it, I already have it, so I'll sell it to you for what I paid for it.
How much was it?
$480,
okay,
right around
so
there.
It's less expensive than a traditional feature.
Yes, exactly. Although if you're in China, buying this unlocked is $320 equivalent.
Okay.
So it's a pretty low-cost device.
It may be called the Mi 2. It looks very similar to an iPhone.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I've only had it, like I said, for about 24 hours now, and I have to say my initial impression is that this is a really awesome device. I'm super impressed with it. It does take a lot of design cues, both on the software and the hardware. Looking, at the front of it, it looks a lot like an iPhone.
Or a Samsung a little bit, you know.
Yeah, well, exactly, and particularly on the back. The back looks kind of like a Samsung backplate of some type. So it's kind of, sandwiched together between, maybe the things that work for other manufacturers. Xiaomi just seems to be really good at kind of taking some of those features and making it their own. The thing is, like, when you look at a device like this on video, my initial reaction before I had it in hand was, oh, it looks like a knockoff. I bet that's kind of a cheap device.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
But man, when you use this device, I can honestly say I have not used an Android device that's as snappy and responsive as this one is. And it's running Xiaomi's own version of Android, forked version called Mi UI. And it's just, everything feels super fluid. You can see it's different than the normal Android kind of layout. Apps are arranged on, sideways as opposed to in an app drawer, which kind of mimics the way it's done on iOS.
This looks very much like iOS, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, but it's really cool. So what I'm doing today, obviously I've only had it for 24 hours, so I'm going to be playing with it for the next week, and I'll do a full review next week. But I think what's interesting here is kind of what makes this important, right? You said that it's, Xiaomi is a Chinese manufacturer, Chinese company. You can't really get this device in the States unless you go through some sort of an importer, which you
can do. I mean, people do that.
And you can go online and you could find it right now for around $470, $480. And that's unlocked. And still, how this device, this hardware, compares to the top-of-the-line devices like the Galaxy S5 right now. I mean, in my time with this, I would choose this over the S5, and it's still less expensive. At $480, it's still a great deal.
It's a beautiful screen.
The screen is
I think
phenomenal.
You can even tell in the video that it's very solid and crisp.
It's a 5-inch screen, 1920 by 1080p IPS LCD at 441 pixels per inch. So I mean, the resolution is just out of this world, and it's super sharp and vibrant. It's just really an impressive thing to see.
But not unique. I mean, the same as the HTC One or the Galaxy S5.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately when you get to that kind of high pixels per inch,
right?
Yeah, you hope for that, and I'm always wanting to have a reason to turn on this display because it's so beautiful.
It is quad core, but it's a 800, not an 801.
No, it's an 801.
Oh, it is an 801.
It is 2.5 gigahertz quad core Snapdragon 801 with 3 gigs of RAM. So I mean, it's screaming. When I'm playing games on here, it has a couple of different modes versus like, kind of a battery efficient mode versus full power. And it has a 3080 milliamp hour battery.
Oh, that's big.
And the battery so far has been really great. I turned it on full power, and today I've been running on that, and I mean, you can hardly see any dent in my battery. Of course, I've been here where there's plenty of Wi-Fi and everything. This particular model only runs on, like, I'm on LTE, and I have my SIM in there, but it's a 3G phone here in the States. The only place you're going to get LTE is in China.
The frequencies are wrong.
Yeah, LTE TBA in China. They are coming out with a version of this later this year. I'm I'm aware of that will be compatible with other LTE.
We were a little concerned that you would be in Chinese, but apparently you can have it.
You set that in
English.
setup.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives you, it defaults to Chinese. The very first screen you see when you factory reset is select your language.
Right.
And everything kind of falls in line. But yeah, it's a really interesting device. In China, Xiaomi is the #1 OEM. Their phones are priced nearly at cost, narrow profit margin. They're looking to make money off the ecosystem. Things like themes. You can go into their theme store and you can use Mi points that you purchase, kind of like Xbox points, right? Where you purchase points and then you can find all these different themes and apply them and everything.
So they're not a carrier; they're a manufacturer.
Manufacturer, exactly.
Okay. Are they on China Telecom? All the Chinese carriers?
Yeah, they're yes, predominantly.
This is the phone.
Yes, exactly. Their devices are sold for 18 months. That's to maximize profit, and available through their site. They do flash sales. So, for example, today the Mi 3, which is the one before this one, had a flash sale of 20,000 devices to India, sold out in less than 3 seconds.
What?
It took 3 seconds for 20,000 people to add it to their cart, basically, is what that means.
Now, the Mi UI...
So people go crazy for these devices.
The Mi UI operating system is based on Android. You said no Google services.
No Google services. However, if you go to the Mi market, there is an app that allows you to install the Play Store.
Oh.
And it does get updated from Google once it's installed, so it passes that security kind of checkpoint on Google's part.
And then you can get any Play Store
so
app.
I've created a folder here with all of my Google apps, and they're all in there, and they're updating through the Play Store and everything. So, so yeah, that was one of the first things that I did. So it's an interesting device, and I'm really looking forward to playing with it. The build quality is just top notch, super snappy. The screen's incredible. So far, I'm really digging it.
It's an interesting mix, which we don't see much in the U.S. of metal and plastic. Metal it is a metal case,
stainless steel.
But
chassis.
That's kind of beautiful.
Yep.
But then it's got a plastic back, which I think
does, but it's not a hollow plastic back. Like what I'm realizing now is not all plastic is created equal, right?
Yes.
There's some plastic phones that feel like a toy. And then there's some plastic, even the OnePlus One, that's a plastic backing, but it feels premium. It's just a different type of plastic they've done right. And this, done right, I think it feels really great.
What do we know of their plans to sell in the U.S.?
Well, that's the tricky part, right? There is so much here that if this was sold in the U.S., there's lawsuit written all over it. So I think Xiaomi has a lot to overcome if they plan on entering the U.S. market. And part of the reason that they hired Hugo Barra from Google is because, he is now the VP of International at Xiaomi, and he's made no bones about the fact that their plan is to open it up. So maybe we'll see it someday, but they're gonna have to tread lightly as far as their design points are concerned, because down to these little details where it's kind of shaved on the side, it's kind of hard to see on video here, but it looks so much like the iPhone that it's just kind of uncanny. Ron Amadio of Ars Technica also did a review. He's going to be on tonight's All About Android. And we're going to be talking about this.
Oh, good.
And he made just a really good point, which is that Xiaomi, as a creator of hardware, yes, their designs are very derivative, but that doesn't make them bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
They do it really well. Right. They have derivative design that's executed really, really well.
And you could argue everybody's deriving something from everybody else at this point. There's no completely original phone. You wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
Oh, great, a phone shaped like a circle.
I don't know. We may see that someday if people freak out as much as they do
X1.
about the Moto 360.
All right, thank you, Jason Howell. We'll see more tonight on All About Android.
Yes.
And next week, a full review of the Xiaomi Mi 4.
That's right.
Yeah, we know you can't get it in the U.S., but first of all, we are seen all
can.
over the world, even in China. And yes, second of all, you can.
Yeah.
Just
you
won't
have to go
get
through a few
LTE,
hoops to do it.
And that's something important to consider, no LTE.